This is Michael Popok, Legal AF After Dark. Everybody's got their eyes on the civil fraud case that's going on in New York, and boy, is it scandalous. Is it interesting with Donald Trump doing all sorts of things short of standing on his head and spitting wooden nickels to get attention, even if it puts him in jeopardy in the other criminal prosecutions. On the most recent Legal AF, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, my partner and I, my colleague and I, talked about the real thing that Donald Trump should be worrying about now, which is the Georgia criminal racketeering conspiracy case against him and now 18 co-conspirators, because one co-conspirator, Scott Hall, already flipped. As news reports are that we're getting, that Fani Willis and her team are talking to at least a half a dozen others to get them to stop being criminal defendants conjoined at the hip with Donald Trump and start being cooperating witnesses and witnesses for the prosecution. She's really successful at that, Fani Willis. We talk about it on our episode just this past Wednesday on Legal AF. She flipped 8 fake electors before she even got her indictment. And she's notorious or successful, notorious is the wrong word, she's successful in getting cooperating witnesses. This will not be a trial of 18. This will be a trial of 6 or 7, and we tell you who we think it's going to be in our most recent episode. Take a listen. So Georgia, let's go, it's, as I said at the top of the show, it's apple picking season in Georgia. We got a lot of seasons that have opened, as you reminded me at the top of the show or before we started. The Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, is back in session. For those that follow us around the world or even here at home that don't recognize or don't realize that the Supreme Court has a term. It starts in October. It ends usually in around June when they go on summer break. And we know which cases that the Supreme Court's going to take at least for the first part of the term, because they've already in caucus voted on that and decided on which ones they're going to take. And we know that things like the funding of the Consumer Protection Bureau has already had oral argument. The first day of October is the first day of the court back in session, coming off a reeling period in their history where they've been attacked properly and mercilessly for ethical violations. And a MAGA right wing took over the court and held it hostage and started passing rules and regulations, including, ripping away a woman's right to choose after 50 years of being a constitutional right. And we will follow everything at the Supreme Court level from oral argument all the way through decisions as this new term opens. But for right now, let's talk about Georgia and particularly what's going on with the October 23rd trial of at least Ken Chesebro and Sidney Powell, 2 disgraced lawyers for Donald Trump. That's a picture of Chesebro and Fani Willis. Just to be clear, that was not Sidney Powell on the right of that picture. But it may be other people, because the judge, Judge McAfee, has made clear that if others don't waive their right to speedy trial, they're going to be tried on the 23rd of October as well. And with the cooperation and the plea deal with Scott Hall, we're now down to 18. Used to be 19 co-conspirators, including Donald Trump. Scott Hall has cut a deal. He's first one in. He got the best deal. 5 years probation and no jail time is the recommendation if he cooperates. He led the Coffee County, or was part of the Coffee County interference with election equipment and downloading of software from Dominion to get voter data and then use it for their fraudulent purposes. He was caught on audio tape confessing to his crime several months later. And so he's a bail bondsman. He doesn't have a lot of money, apparently, and took the deal. But he's not the last one. As I said in the opening, this is Fani Willis, or any good prosecutor. You'll talk about your experience, Karen, in these mega cases. Fani Willis once indicted 35 members and other people related to the Atlanta Public School Board in a bribery scandal, also under the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, RICO. By the time she went to trial a couple years later, she was trying the case against 12 because she settled. She pled out 13 of them who ended up cooperating. So what I'd like you to talk about, Karen, is the reporting we have. We know Scott Hall. I did a hot take on it. We showed the video of him pleading to the judge, Judge McAfee. Judge McAfee also asked the prosecutor recently at a hearing, a logistical hearing about the trial in October, do they expect to make plea deals to the two defendants, Sidney Powell and Ken Chesebro? And they said, yes, we're getting around to it. We're going to make them plea deals. We also know that they've offered a plea deal based on reporting, because it's been publicly acknowledged, to Bernie Kerik, the disgraced former police commissioner for New York, who was pardoned by Donald Trump for unrelated tax evasion having nothing to do with Jan 6, who was a bag man for Rudy Giuliani in Team Crazy and trying to pressure elected officials and election officials in various places. He has been offered a deal. Oh no, I'm sorry. He's been subpoenaed to testify, and his lawyer Tim Parlatore, formerly of Donald Trump's team, has said he'll consider it if he's given full immunity. So we have that on the board. And then Mike Roman, who was not only the election day coordinator for the Trump campaign, but was the mule that collected up all of the fake certificates, electoral certificates, and had them delivered to the National Archive and to Mike Pence. He is also cooperating with Jack Smith, but that didn't stop Fani Willis from indicting him in Georgia. And he has been offered a deal and has turned it down as of right now. So what I'd like to do is have you, from your perspective, talk about sort of the plea deal, first in, getting the better deals, and then sort of it becomes less important because the prosecutors don't need your testimony if you wait too long. And what do you think we're going to see with these 18 remaining? And then you and I can go back and forth about who we think is definitely somebody who will flip and take a deal, and somebody who definitely will dig in and not take a deal before we finish this segment.
Yeah. So whenever prosecutors do these gigantic cases, I've supervised 100 defendant takedown, or 50 defendants, 20 defendants. When you do big cases that involve lots of criminal activity, it often involves many people, and you assume that there will be a group of people that will flip or cooperate, and you don't count on it. So you don't do it knowing that you have to be able to prove your case beyond a reasonable doubt against each and every defendant, each and every element. So you don't count on it. But it certainly is something that you anticipate might happen and could happen, and sometimes could make not only your case stronger, but it's also sometimes the fair thing to do, because there's different levels of culpability. And typically the rule of thumb for a prosecutor is you don't flip down, you flip up. So what that means is you never cooperate the really bad guy, the top of the chain, to get the lower level people, but you'll flip the lower level people to get the top, because the top person is usually the person who's most culpable. And so there's different levels in this particular case of culpability, right? Donald Trump probably being the very top. And under him, you have a stable of people who are probably next in line of most culpability. Rudy Giuliani, Ken Chesebro, Mark Meadows is somebody I would throw in that category. But or Jeff Clark, those types of people, I would say are in that next tranche of individuals. And then you probably have other, another mid-level, and then you have the lowest level people, and that could be somebody like the fake electors, right? That I would say are probably among the lower level of individuals, and really they could either just plead guilty. Anyone of these defendants, by the way, can just plead guilty and take whatever sentence that they would potentially get. And you could even plea bargain that. But for some people, you will negotiate, and you'll negotiate a lesser sentence in exchange for cooperation. And that is done in a situation where you think that the person has valuable information and that they're credible. So they can't lie. They can't only tell half truths. They can't give their version. If you're not telling 100% the truth, you are useless and worthless to a prosecutor. So a lot goes into vetting a potential cooperator, because that could blow up your whole case, right? If you put someone on, if you put people on who have convictions or who, who have checkered pasts, because those are the people who hang out with the bad guys, right? We always used to say, really bad guys don't hang out with priests and nuns and, altar boys. Although, it's I'm not really sure priests are in that category anymore. To some people, but anyway, bad guys hang out with bad guys, and so it's so those are the people chosen by by the main actors, the main players, and so what you do is you literally what you do is you literally make that determination, and some people will flip, some people will cooperate. And I think in this particular case, I'm not surprised that one person has. I'm actually surprised that more people haven't. I wouldn't want to go down with Donald Trump or even for Donald Trump. So I think that the first few that come through the door are going to be more valuable to Fani Willis, because they're going to provide information that potentially she doesn't have, right? But after a while, it becomes redundant. And so the eighth person, the eighth fake elector, for example, to tell about the same meeting and the same, agreement, et cetera, is less valuable to her than the first or second one. And so you could imagine a scenario where that person doesn't get as good of a deal, but maybe you still make a deal because you want to cut some people out. So that's generally how it works and how it will likely work here. I think we're going to see this case. I think you're going to see a bunch of people drop off, the ones who are less culpable and who don't want to go down with the ship. But, you got the true believers who they'll go down with Donald Trump no matter what. They don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think she's been successful. She, if I didn't mention it before, she flipped 8 fake electors even before she got her indictment. I said it in the opening. And she's working around the clock to get people to strengthen her case, the ones that she needs. It's interesting that she wants Kerrick to testify. He ran around with Rudy Giuliani and pressured elected officials and election officials and tried to hold phony special sessions and all of that. So he's got a lot to say. If he gets immunity, it sounds like he's going to talk. Of course, they'll vet him beforehand. And Mike Roman.
Bernie. Let's just remind everybody who Bernie Kerrick is, right? Bernie Kerrick was the former police and corrections commissioner for New York City when Rudy Giuliani was mayor. That's how they knew each other. And in fact, the local jail in Manhattan was always called the Bernie Kerrick Correctional Facility. He was convicted federally for all kinds of fraud related
tax evasion.
Yeah, exactly. And Donald Trump pardoned him. So he served, I think he served 4 years in prison.
Yeah.
So it'll just be interesting. He's got a checkered, I'm just pointing that out because as a cooperator, he's going to have to own up to all that stuff. He can't say, no, I didn't do it, or he's not valuable to her if he doesn't. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. Yeah,
no, that's all I'm saying is in order for him to cooperate, he has to admit all of that, right?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting trying to get inside her mind. Mike Roman is interesting. If that's her next, she's making her wish list of those that she wants to have cooperate with her. It's interesting, Mike Roman. Mike Roman is cooperating apparently with Jack Smith. We already reported a long time ago that he went in over the summer and on an immunity deal, a use immunity deal, Queen for the Day gave his testimony to Jack Smith and wasn't indicted. He's an unindicted with Jack Smith as of yet, although we're all expecting a subsequent indictment to come out of the election case before Judge Chutkan, although maybe not, we'll see. But
Popok, remind people who Mike Roman is.
Yeah, I'm going to get, yeah. Well, I said earlier who he was. He's the head of the election ground operation for Donald Trump, and he was the mule that carried the certificates. And it has a lot of information because it kind of ties him back into a number of these people that have been indicted. He puts them at the fake electors. It puts them with the Trump campaign. It puts him with Donald Trump himself. It puts him with Mark Meadows. He's a connector for a lot of the co-conspirators. And just saying it out loud now, I think I know why she wants Mike Roman. Plus, he's already cooperated with Jack Smith, at least in a limited way. So he's turned down the deal for now, but we know the pressure is on. And from a indicted criminal defendant standpoint, you can't wait too long, because you just won't get the deal. You'll get jail time if you keep waiting. So you got to, to round out this segment, my working theory is the true believers who are still drinking the Kool-Aid, like Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani. I don't think Mark Meadows, and Jeffrey Clark, who want to serve in Trump's next administration, God forbid, are going to go to trial for him, and show the big man their loyalty. It's like a loyalty test, like what Steve Bannon did, like what Navarro did. And all these people are going to end up in jail because they're aiming at the wrong audience. They should be aiming at the prosecutor and then ultimately at the jury and judges, and not at Donald Trump. That's only going to put them in harm's way. And then others are, ripe for flipping. Who doesn't think that Jenna Ellis, who now has become a true believer the other direction and says that, she's stupid for following Trump, and why isn't Trump paying her bills? I mean, if we don't think that Fawny's leaning on her, and she was literally the bag woman for Rudy Giuliani with all those crazy filings. So there will definitely be others that we will report on. And then when they watch what happens on October the 23rd over a 3 or 4 month trial, and how poorly it's going to, I think, go for Chesebro and Sidney Powell, it's going to scare the crap out of a whole group of them. Many of them are not wealthy people, aren't in Donald Trump's inner circle, have nothing more to gain, like Scott Hall, this bail bondsman, and they're going to take a deal that she's going to offer. So we'll continue to watch Georgia. It's just interesting as we get closer. We're spending a lot of time now because it's really, really fascinating to watch Donald Trump melt down and put himself in harm's way with the other cases in a performative theater piece in his first 2.5 days, and now he's gone. He's, as we like to say on the MeidasTouch network, he's fleeing. He's flown. He's in Florida. He's gone. He's out of here. Our audience likes that, so he's gone. he's fled. But Georgia is going to be a criminal case against 2 out of the remaining 18 co-conspirators. If she gets that win, she's got, Fawny Wells has tremendous wind at her sail for the remaining cases, which will be batched into probably groups of 2 or 3, starting probably in March of 2024. So Donald Trump could be tried as early as March or April during a break in his calendar, in his criminal calendar, which is rapidly filling up. So
you think they'll be batched?
Yeah.
I don't.
You think she's going to do Trump alone?
No, I think she's going to have one more trial. I think she's going to try to wait, I think she's going to try to plead out. Really?
Oh, no. Oh, no. That's different. If she slims the group down low enough that Judge McAfee doesn't flip out again about how big the trial will be, because he's already said, I am not doing 18, meaning I'm not doing any giant number. Come up with me. If you're right, if what she's doing now is surgically reducing the amount, and now she's left with 8, yes, he'll do 8. He'll do 10, maybe.
Exactly.
I agree with you. Totally agree with you.
That's what I think it's going to be.
So you and I are like, now that I know where you're going with that, yes. But if it's still the remaining 18, no,
it won't be. It won't be. She's gonna shave off some people. She'll give them some plea deals to just. It's worse to have more than one other trial. You don't need your witnesses to testify over and over and over again and be cross-examined by all these attorneys and create records that could have inconsistencies. It's just not something she's going to want.
Some of my favorite parts of our podcast when you and I do it together is when you remind me that you were the prosecutor and you know so much more about certain criminal procedures than I ever will.
Not true, but
take it. Take it. It is one of my favorite parts. I mean, some people or they interrupted each other. We're having a dialogue and a conversation, and hopefully it's interesting. All right. I mean, like I said, you may know the high level aspects of the Georgia criminal indictment against Donald Trump, but we try to get deeper and give you a deeper understanding using our experience as longtime trial lawyers in courtrooms and courthouses just like this one. And if you like that hot take from our most recent episode, you're going to love the full-length episode. We curate the top 3 to 5 stories at the intersection of law, justice, and politics, and we put them together in a podcast we call Legal AF. It is what you think. Wednesdays with Karen Friedman, Agnifilo, and me. Saturdays with Ben Meiselas and me. And we catch that news story, that legal analysis. We look at it. We explain it to you in a way we hope is both entertaining in its own way and, more importantly, informational. We don't blow smoke or sunshine. We just are here telling you the truth. So if you like that one, tune into Legal AF on MeidasTouch Network, only on the YouTube channel and wherever you get your audio podcast. Until my next hot take, until my next episode of Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.